racial and ethnic mixes as the settled people further south have encroached on the lands, the farms of the settled people with their cattle and their camels. And the settled people would beat them back with sticks. It would be a low-level conflict. In recent times, certain parties have armed the respective groups, not with sticks or bows and arrows that they historically used to beat each other back, but with AK-47s and RPG-7s and other heavy weaponry. And so this drought-induced conflict over scarce pasture and scarce water has evolved in a war. Now, that war peaked in 2004. And after that, there are a series of dynamics that keeps it simmering, but not nearly what it was then. So this really has nothing to do with race. And anyone familiar with the Sudan will tell you that. And if you look at pictures of the people in the camps in Darfur, and you look at pictures of the Janjaweed, then you'll see the exact same people. And they're all Muslim. It's not, the southern Sudan is a different story. But in western Sudan, where Darfur is, all of the people there are Muslim on both sides of the conflict. So it's not a religious conflict, and it's not a racial conflict. It's a conflict that's rooted in desertification and some of the political consequences of desertification. And it's been politicized to the degree that it has been politicized because of Middle East politics. A far worse conflict has been going on during the same time period in the Congo that has produced 10 times the deaths of the conflict in Darfur. No one in America knows about the conflict in the Congo. Why? Because the Congo has no implications in Middle East politics as Sudan does. That's the reason why. So, but to just reiterate, it has nothing to do with race and ethnicity, and has nothing to do with religion.
How would the Christian convert to Islam? And it's the same, another question, what would you say to these here who are considering accepting Islam?
First of all, if you want to convert to Islam, do what I did, because I converted. You just study, and I would recommend, since he's asking, Islam in Focus, a book called Islam in Focus. That's what I read, and I found it to be a very thorough and balanced, fair presentation of the religion. It has sections that respond to certain misconceptions about Islam, and I read that, and then if you're satisfied, you just say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I openly bear witness there's no God but Allah, one God, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his final messenger and servant, and then you'll be a Muslim. And if you're not satisfied, you read some more, and no one can force you to become a Muslim. La ikraha fi din, there's no compulsion in religion. قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ, truth clearly distinguishes itself from falsehood. فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. So there's no compulsion. If you're interested, you read, you study, and ask Muslims. There's a lot of distortion about Islam these days, so it's best to ask a Muslim. If I want to know about Judaism, and I'm serious about it, I'm going to go see a rabbi. If I'm not serious about it, I might ask a Palestinian. Well, that's what's happening with Islam. A lot of people are asking people who have a lot of enmity towards Islam for various reasons. So, if you're serious, ask a Muslim. And then look at what others say, because you should get a balanced view. Maybe the Muslim is overly zealous about his or her faith. But don't just limit it to what others say and ignore what Muslims say. See what Muslims say, see what others say, and they usually say if there are two very diametrically opposed positions on a single issue, usually the truth is halfway between the two. But if you don't have that opposing view, you can't get to that halfway point.
This is probably a personal question, but has to do with what recently has happened in Texas. While serving in the U.S. Air Force, did you ever feel like your job conflicted with your faith?
No, never. I became Muslim in the Air Force, and at that time, there were no wars going on. So there was never a conflict. I tried to get out as a conscious objector, but because there was no war, they said you can't do that. So I asked them to send me to a Muslim country. They happily obliged because no one wanted to go to a Muslim country. You can't party there. So, no, if you're in the military, people want to go to the Philippines, Korea, Japan, Thailand. Who wants to go to Turkey? So they found someone volunteering to go to Turkey. They're like, send him before he changes his mind. So alhamdulillah, I spent the last 2.5 years of my service in Turkey. From there, I took the bus to Hajj, and I traveled all over the historic Ottoman Empire and the Seljuk Empire before that. So Kayseri, Konya, Eskişehir, Izmir, Bursa, Urfa, which was one of the capitals of the Ottoman Empire, Istanbul several times, Ankara to the east, Urfa, Diyarbakir, and those places. So I had a wonderful time, and I never once felt that there was a conflict between the two.
How can you reassure non-Muslims that Muslims here are not determined to take over the West, establish Islamic Sharia, and oppress non-Muslims?
Well, at the very best, there's 10 million of us, which means there's 290 million of you guys. So if it did happen, shame on you. There's a lot, Muslims, there's a lot of rhetoric, and even I'm guilty about Sharia and this and that. There's a lot of grandiose, delusional thinking, but I can assure you, most 99.9% of Muslims don't entertain such delusions, and most people are honored to be in this country and respect the laws and appreciate the opportunities that have been afforded to them as Muslims. And Muslims, though, this is a proselytizing religion, so Muslims do want to reach out and convert people and share their religion. Generally speaking, not all. You find some Muslims like every other religion. So it's unrealistic. It's not, those aren't ideas that the overwhelming majority of Muslims espouse. And for those that do, it's just a grandiose delusion. And the challenge is for us to really study our religion as Muslims and to understand our rights and responsibilities as a minority in an overwhelmingly non-Muslim land. And those rights and responsibilities including working to uphold the sanctity of public space, not to engage in any acts that endanger the lives and property of other communities in any way whatsoever. And so we just have to repeat that message and emphasize that message. And after that, as things are beyond our control, there's very little we can do after that. Just make sure that each and every one of us, to the best of our ability, understands where we are, who we are, what our rights and responsibilities are, and the tremendous burden that we hold as ambassadors to the most powerful and influential country on the face of the earth. That whether we like it or not, and whether we are comfortable with the seemingly deepening militarization of our country or not, the power and influence of the country is a reality. We've been placed here where we can do a lot to foster better understanding between Americans